today's session of Visual JForex, we will be continuing to develop the algorithm using the indicator Ehler-Fisher transform, which is shortened as EF transform. So we will see in today's session how we can design and develop the algorithm to execute the trades which can bring in profit. And in prior session, we had completed the buy side of the equation. So now the focus is going to be on the sell side. This is the Visual JForex board, which has been developed by the Dukascopy Bank SA. The setup includes this instrument subscription. The default instrument is being matched with the instrument of choice, which is Euro USD. Position amount was defined at 0. Then I got these EF transform blocks of the hourly time period and the total time period for calculating the EF transform is 10. This is the default setup. Only change is here. The shift value is different for all these three blocks. And to look at the price action data, we will also be relying on the get historical candle and get historical candles. These two are different. This is the cluster of multiple candles. The candle amount is 4, and to retrieve the individual variables from this cluster, we will be relying on this loop viewer. And then there's two 10-second candles to pinpoint the exact entry point, and these calculations here are basically revolving around the price action. The difference between the last 4 hours and the low is being considered in this calculation, and here is the difference of last hour's candle open and candle close. These two are being defined differently. One is when the last hourly candle goes on to close on the higher side. In that case, the buy trade will be initiated, and accordingly, this difference is being calculated. This is for the sell side, and this minimum price difference of 20 pips being defined with the help of default instrument pip size, and then these were carried out to pinpoint the entry point, the price entry, and stop loss, take profit, and this order validity. Order validity is 1 hour. Okay. And then on the lower side, we had used these if blocks to define the conditions which are necessary for execution of the buy trade, and after that, this pending open, the limit order will be placed for the buy trade with these input values. Now let us begin afresh for the sell side, and the formation needs to be symmetric. That means we have to take 10 if blocks and then a trade command block. So I will bring in 10 if blocks in one go. Okay, and after this trading block, we are also going to need a couple of calculation expressions which we will bring in as and when required. This is going to be sell limit order. Okay, so we leave it at that, and now I will give you a brief refresher of the logic behind the setup. For any sell trade to take place, we want the crossover to happen in last hour. By crossover, I mean the Fisher line should cross below the signal line, and that should have happened in last hour. So in penultimate hour, the Fisher line should have been above the signal line, and whenever we see this crossover is happening, that simply means the underlying instrument is picking up the momentum on the bearish side. So this might be the time to check for the trades, whether it is appropriate to go for the trade. And along with this crossover structure, we are also relying on other factors, which includes that these values, the Fisher line as well as the signal line, should be both below 0, and also this value should be below last uh, 10 hour back, whatever was the output value for the EF transform 10 hours back, the current, not current, last hour's output value should be below those values. So we will have to compare the Fisher line data for the last hour with the Fisher line output for 10 hours back, and same thing for the signal line. Signal line of last hour should also be below the signal line output of 10 hours back. And if that is if these conditions are in place, we can think about going in for the short sell trade, provided the price action is also on our side. We need in last 4 hours enough of volatility. So to count on that, we are simply taking the difference of last 4 hours high and low. And as I said earlier also, we want this to be at least more than 20 pips. We have to take that into consideration, and also the last hour's closing should be below its opening price. Only in that kind of scenario we will be initiating the sell trade. So quite simple. Now we head back to the Visual JForex board, and first thing first is a Fisher line. Fisher 11 should be below signal line 11. First input less than second input. And in last hour, the penultimate hour, not last hour, is feature 15 and signal line 15. The condition should have been inverse. The Fisher 15 should have been above the signal line 15. So in this case, first input greater than second input. This is the crossover requirement. In last hour, the Fisher line has crossed below the signal line, whereas in the penultimate hour, it was above the signal line. And also we need Fisher 11 to be below 0. First input again less than second input. Signal line 11 should also be below 0. First input less than second input. And then we have to compare the Fisher 11 and signal 11 with Fisher 16 and signal line 16 respectively. And we need Fisher 11 to be below the Fisher 16. First input less than second input. And signal line 11 should be below signal line 16. Again, first input less than second input. Now we will consider the price action data, and there we need the last 4 hours high and the low value should be at least 20 pips apart. So we want this HLD to be more than MPR. First input greater than second input. Then we also have to check whether the last hour has closed in red or not. By red I mean that its closing value should be below its opening value. So we have to consider the candle 17's candle close and candle open, and candle 17 candle close should be below its opening value. Okay. And after that, we can look to initiate the trade if and when the price again starts to drop below the last hour candle close. First input less than second input. Now we have to compare the candle 17 candle close with candle 20 candle close and candle 21 candle close. So the candle 17 candle close is going to be the common input for both of these blocks. Candle 20 has a look back period of 1, whereas candle 21 has a look back period of 2. And that simply means we will initiate the trade if we see that candle 20 has closed lower than the candle 17 candle close, and the candle 21 should have closed higher than the candle 17 candle close. So we have to take this, and these two values need to be compared. First input greater than second input, and after that, in this case, it should be first input less than second input. Okay, and we join this to the trade command block. First input less than second input. Now coming to this trade command block, we have to define these parameters. The entry point where the order is to be placed. The default instrument is going to remain as it is. Trade amount, I will change it to 0.1 million. The page is going to be 2 pips. Stop loss and take profit, we are going to keep the stop loss and take profit in a dynamic way. So we have to create new variables, and the order validity time we have already defined. We will use the same value, OVT. Now it is looking a bit cluttered, so first we will arrange the zip blocks, and after that we have to take a couple of calculation expression blocks to define these variables for the trade command block. and we'll join it here. Okay. Now coming to these parameters, the exact entry price needs to be defined, and this is going to be a sale limit order, which means the price is going to be above the current market price, and whatever is the last hour's candle close candle open difference, we will take the half of it and add it to the last tick price, and that is going to be our entry price. So I need to bring in the calculation expression block, define that. We are going to need two of these. First is we have to consider the difference between the opening price and the closing price, which is SCL, multiply it by 0.5, and I think I have already defined that variable, which is EF. Here it is. It has start value of 0.5. This is going to be A1 into A2, and this will be the execution difference, which needs to be added to the last tick price. Okay, I will first define this as AD. After that, we add this to the last tick ask. Oh, this is going to be A1 plus A2, and this is going to be our sell entry price. Now this has been defined. I will put it here in trade command block. The next thing we have to define is going to be stop loss. Stop loss is simply the difference of the last hour's candle close and candle open, which need to be converted into the integer format. So here we take this result of the calculation SCL and multiply it with the PEEP conversion factor. So here two more calculation expression blocks will be needed. And this difference will be multiplied by 10 raised to the power 4. A1 into A2 . Okay, and the take profit is simply going to be the twice of the stop loss. Stop loss will need to be multiplied by the TPCF, which has a value of 2. Again, A1 into A2, and the result of the calculation will be the take profit. I will assign this variable to this output value of this calculation expression. Okay, with this we have defined all the required variables apart from this string comment. I will leave it blank. We are not making any comment. Okay, so with this our setup is almost complete. I will join this to the multiple action, and as you can see, this color coded line till the open for the cell limit. Okay, and with this our cell side setup is also complete, and as you can see, it is symmetrical. The number of if block is the same as was the case with the buy side of the equation, and after that this trade command block has been added. And I hope you have been able to understand how this algorithm has been defined. And whenever you complete it, I would suggest that you run the test on the historical tester and see whether it is profitable or not on monthly or yearly data, and accordingly you can decide whether to use it or whether to tweak it or simply to discard it. And with this I am now saying goodbye. See you next time, and do subscribe to the Dukascopy webinar channel. Thank you all for joining in. Goodbye.